Now, anybody remember lacteal? Have you heard this name before? We talked about this a little bit when we talked about the lymphatic system, immunity. You know, the lymphatic capillary that are present in the villi of the small intestine or intestine, they absorb fats. Okay, they absorb what? Fats. And these lymphatic capillaries that absorb the fats from the intestine, they are called lacteals. Is it clear? So you see here, the green is the lacteal, and you have the blood capillary too, for the proteins and carbohydrates. So, if I ask you, proteins and carbohydrates, those nutrients enter into what? The blood, right? But fat molecules enter into the lymphatic vessels, and circulates inside the lymphatic system. Make sense? Circulates inside the lymphatic system. But fats also should go to the blood. How that happens, you all know. You remember the large thoracic duct and right lymphatic duct. Finally, they enter into what? The subclavian vein. Remember that here? So, after the fat molecules circulate inside the lymphatic system, finally given to the blood, into the subclavian vein. Okay? So, the goal is entering into the blood. Okay. In the wall of the late part or distal part of the small intestine, you will find aggregated lymphatic follicles. We talked about this too before. Those are called Peyer's patches, aggregated lymphoid follicles in the late part or distal part of the small intestine. In the wall of the duodenum, you have Brunner's gland that secrete alkaline mucus. Brunner's gland. So that is the small intestine. Now, let's talk about the liver. Liver is the largest organ of your digestive system. It's a very big organ. And the liver has 4 lobes. Right lobe, left lobe, and 2 other small lobes are called quadrate and caudate lobes. Right lobe is the largest. That's why we said liver is mostly located in which side, right or left? In the right side, because right lobe is much bigger, okay? So most part of the liver is in the right side here, okay? Left lobe goes to the left side. Okay. Now, if you see, this is the liver. You are looking from the front and top like this. So this is the right lobe. This is the left lobe. Okay, separated by a ligament that is called the falciform ligament. Okay, and the falciform ligament comes from the wall of the abdomen, and that part is called the round ligament or ligamentum teres. So from the wall, body wall, round ligament or ligamentum teres enters into the liver and becomes falciform ligament. The part is attached to the liver is falciform between right and left lobes. Now this is the gallbladder. Where are the other 2 lobes? There are 2 other lobes. Those are smaller. One is here, this one. This is called the caudate lobe. And this is called the quadrate lobe. This one is rectangular. Quadri means 4. Okay? So quadrate lobe is this one, and this is called caudate lobe. This is the bottom of the liver, and this is the gallbladder. And when you will see the liver in your lab part, remember to see the inferior vena cava. You know, inferior vena cava is in the abdomen, and this is the depression here for the inferior vena cava. So inferior vena cava passes through this area. That is the sulcus or inferior vena cava. Now, if I ask you which one is quadrate, which one is caudate, easy way to know, quadrate is rectangular more, and next to the gallbladder, this is another indication. Okay, this is the gallbladder, and this is quadrate. And caudate is next to the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava passes through that sulcus. Depression. Okay, so how many lobes liver has? 4. Which one is the largest? Right lobe. Okay. Now, if you cut the liver and see the tissue under the microscope, inside the liver, you see many lobules. So, if you see inside the liver, you'll see many lobules, and they are hexagonal. That means they have 6 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So, lobules, hexagonal lobules, okay, inside the liver. And in the center of each lobule, these are called hepatic lobule, makes sense, there is a canal, okay, through which the blood vessels and bile duct pass. So let's see here. Okay. So inside the liver, you'll see many lobules, and in the center of the lobule, you have a canal, and through this canal, a vein, not artery, a vein passes, that is called the central vein. Central vein. Okay. Now, what happens? The hepatocytes, the liver cells. Cyte means cell, and hepato means liver. So hepatocytes are the cells of the liver, and these are the hepatocytes. You see, they are very nicely arranged inside the lobule like this. Okay. So these are hepatocytes, the cells of the liver tissue. Hepatocytes. So from the central canal or central vein, they radiate towards the border to all different directions. Okay. Now, hepatocytes are very important cells. Why? Because the hepatocytes secrete the bile I mentioned before, right? Bile comes from or secreted from the liver. Okay? And you also know, you remember from the circulatory system, I told you that after the absorption of nutrients, hepatic portal circulation, remember that? Takes the nutrients to the liver, and where the nutrients are first processed. So nutrients are first processed where? Mostly in the liver, right? So these cells also process the nutrients because these are the cells of the liver. So one is production and secretion of bile, right? Very important function. You know the function of bile. Another is processing of what? Nutrients that are taken from the intestine to the liver. Okay. Another important function, you can write it down. Hepatocytes detoxify many toxic chemicals. Detoxification is another important function. Okay. So secretion of bile, processing the nutrients that arrive from the intestine, and detoxification of the toxic chemicals in the body. Okay. You know, sometimes you will see when the doctor prescribes a medicine, doctors often ask, you have any liver disease? Or if you read the instruction on the medicine, you know, the container, you will see, very often you will see that consult your doctor if you have liver disease. You will see very often, okay, before you take any medication. Because all chemicals that you take as medicine has adverse toxic, you know, components, and that is detoxified where? Mostly in the liver. Okay, so if your liver is not working, then detoxification will not occur, right? The toxic chemical can accumulate in your body and cause harm. Make sense? So detoxification is another function of the hepatocytes. In the liver tissue, you also have another type of cells. Those are actually macrophages in the liver, phagocytic cells. And these cells are called Kupffer cells. Kupffer cells, Kupffer cells. They are actually Kupffer's cell. They are actually macrophages. They do phagocytosis. Okay, so now this is a picture, not the real picture, of a lobule. So you see 6 corners, and in each corner you have 3 structures. So you see how beautifully everything is designed in your body. So in each corner you have 3 structures. Same thing in this corner. Okay? Same here, same here. In every corner you have those 3 structures. And those 3 structures together is called triad, portal triad. Portal triad. Okay. So in each corner of the lobule you have a portal triad. And in that portal triad, what are those 3 structures? You have a bile duct, you have a portal venule, and portal arteriole. So basically an artery, a vein, small artery, small vein, right? And a duct for the bile. Is it clear? So now see what happens. This is more beautiful. These are hepatocytes, and in each hepatocyte you have a bile canoniculi, very narrow, thin, hair-like tubes are attached to each hepatocyte. So you see how beautifully it is structured. And the hepatocyte secretes bile, you remember that, and that secretion of bile enters into the canaliculi. And those canaliculi, they form network, they join to each other, and then finally give the bile to the corner of the lobule, to the bile duct. So, bile canaliculi collect the bile from each hepatocyte and give the bile to the bile duct in each corner of the lobule. And then from these bile ducts, bile is given to larger duct, then hepatic duct, and right and left hepatic duct take the bile out from the liver. You already have seen that. Okay, so we have talked about the gallbladder. Now large intestine. Large intestine has following parts. First part of the large intestine is called the cecum. And your appendix is attached to the cecum. Remember, appendix is a small finger-like structure or worm-like structure attached to the cecum. Okay, that is appendix. Then you have the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon. So, colon. Okay. And then after descending colon, you have sigmoid colon. So next is sigmoid, S-shaped. Sigmoid colon, then rectum, anal canal, and then last part is the anus. Okay, so these are the parts. So let's see the large intestine here. This is the first part called the cecum, and this is what? Appendix. See, finger-like, tiny finger-like structure attached to the cecum. And this is the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon. Makes sense? And then sigmoid, S shape. And then rectum, anal canal, anus. Now, if you see the large intestine from outside, you'll see many pouches or pocket-like structures. You see here, this is one, this is another. Okay, so these pouches or pocket-like structures or sac-like structures are called haustra. So haustra are the sacs here, pocket-like sacs caused by the tone of the muscle fiber. So that is one thing you will see from outside. Another thing you see here, a thick band of smooth muscle fibers. Actually, if you see inside, there are 3 bands of fibers together, bundled together, and that structure is attached to the large intestine. That is called tinea coli. Tinea coli. Band of smooth muscle fibers, concentrated fibers. And you'll see tiny fat structures. These are adipose tissue or fat structures, yellow color, are attached to the tinea coli, and these are called epiploic appendages. epiploid. You have to remember these names. I can't do anything, right? You have to remember house trap are the pocket-like or sac-like structures, right? And the band of smooth muscle fibers attached to the large intestine, that is called what? Tinea coli. And those tiny fats attached to the tinea coli are called what? Epiploid appendages. Okay. Also, this is transverse colon, and transverse colon is attached to the body wall by transverse mesocolon. That's the actually mesentery attached to the transverse colon. And this is the sigmoid colon, and this part of mesentery is called sigmoid mesentery. Anyway, so just see the large intestine and the structures you can see here. Okay. Now, appendix, is this helpful or not? What do you think? What? That means what? Helpful or not? Yes? How it helps?
No idea. I don't know. I'm guessing that helps. You don't need it.
Yeah, doesn't it not? If you
Let's say you don't
don't
need
You
it.
don't need, right? You can remove. You know, many people now the appendix is removed. You know, appendicitis. Have you heard that? So appendicitis can cause problem. Appendicitis is the inflammation of the appendix. Now, why that happens more? Because you see the food stuff enters into the appendix, right? And it is narrow. So food stuff sometimes can stay there, may not come out, okay? And get bad. And bacteria can grow there easily. Make sense? In large tube, the food can easily pass, right? But when the food stuff, fecal stuff enters into the appendix, that may not come out, right? And cause infection there. And inflammation, when that happens, swelling in the appendix occurs, right? It gets bigger, right? And that can cause another problem that can block the artery that is going to give blood to the appendix. Okay? So if the artery is blocked, then the tissue dies, right? And gets easily infected if blood is not going there, right? And that can cause what? If you don't treat it, rupture. That can cause serious problem. If the appendix ruptures, then the fecal materials, right? And bacteria can easily get out. And you know, peritoneal cavity I mentioned before is big, right? A lot of fluid there. So it can spread and go to the other organs. Make sense? So that's why quick removal, if appendicitis occurs, is a good idea, okay? Before it ruptures. Appendicitis. Now, if I ask you, what are the important functions of the stomach, you will say, what do you think? I mentioned before. Digestion and storage of food, because it is big, right? If I ask you, what are the important functions of small intestine? Absorption of nutrients, right? Absorption of what? Nutrients, remember. And digestion. That is the small intestine. Now if I ask you, what are the important functions of the large intestine? Nutrients are already absorbed in the small intestine. What you have remaining? Water, electrolytes, okay? So most of the water and electrolytes are absorbed in the large intestine. Is it clear? So large intestine absorption, but absorption of water and electrolytes. Electrolytes, okay? Now you tell me, if your large intestine got infection, inflammation has occurred in the wall of the large intestine, okay? So absorption of water will not occur. Make sense? And electrolytes will not be absorbed. So will get out from the body. So the stool will be highly what? Diluted. Right? Lot of water and electrolytes will get out from the body. That is called what? Diarrhea. Have you heard that? So inflammation in the wall of large intestine, right, can cause diarrhea. Now you tell me, your large intestine wall is fine, okay? But the movement of food is slow, okay? Movement of feces is slow. So it will stay longer time here in large intestine, okay? So if it stays longer time in large intestine, what will happen? The wall is working fine. It will absorb a lot of water, right? Because more time, it is getting more time. So the stool will become hard, and that is called constipation, okay? So diarrhea, constipation, those are the issues related to large intestine, right? Make sense? Okay. Just a couple more conditions. Have you heard this? Cirrhosis happens in which organ? Liver cirrhosis, right? Have you heard that? So, what happens in liver tissue? The liver tissue becomes fibrous, hard. Okay? And if you see the cirrhotic liver, you'll see the surface of the liver is not smooth. The surface gets a lot of lobules like this, nodules. So this is cirrhotic liver. Okay? The tissue becomes hard and fibrous, and liver shrinks, and liver has a lot of nodules. Okay, on the surface. That is cirrhosis. And liver cirrhosis is a serious problem because you know that the plasma protein are synthesized in the liver. You remember albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. So if albumin is not produced, albumin does what? Colloidal osmotic pressure. Hold the water inside the blood. So if albumin is not present, then from the blood the water will get out, right? And will accumulate in the body. In the peritoneal cavity, that is called ascites. In the tissue, that is called edema. Make sense? So that is one thing. Another thing I just wanted to mention, this is the small intestine, okay? And this is the innermost lining, mucosa. So sometimes what can happen, if the mucosal lining gets weak, tiny pouches are formed like this. You see here, tiny pouches are formed like this, and those are called diverticula, plural, many pouches. And what happens, you see, the fecal materials, feces, enter into those pockets, tiny pockets, okay, and cause infection, make them infected, okay, and that is called diverticulitis. Itis is inflammation, okay, make sense? So, in the wall of the intestine, many tiny pockets are formed and they enter into the muscular layer like this, and fecal materials enter and infect those diverticula. Okay? That is called diverticulitis. Okay. We don't have time to have talked more. Anyway, so let's stop here.